Joining Thea tonight is a dear friend of mine and collaborator, Maw Shein Win, a poet, editor, and educator who lives and teaches in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her poetry chapbooks are Ruins of a Glittering Palace and Score and Bone. Invisible Gifts, Poems was published by Minute D Press in 2018. She was a 2019 visiting scholar in the Department of English at UC Berkeley, and Win is the first poet laureate of El Cerrito, California, 2016 to 18. And her poetry collection, Storage Unit for the Spirit House, will be published by Omnidon in 2020. And you can pre-order Storage Unit for the Spirit House from Booksmith.com, I'm happy to say. Find her at mawsheinwin.com. Born and raised in San Francisco, California, Thea Matthews is a poet, scholar, and activist. She writes on the complexities of humanity, grief, and resiliency. She earned her BA at UC Berkeley, where she studied and taught June Jordan's program Poetry for the People. She has work published in the Atlanta Review, Tilde, Foglifter, the Rumpus, and others. She has work also featured in anthologies Still Here San Francisco, which came out through Foglifter in 2019, and Love with Accountability, Uprooting the Roots on Child Sexual Abuse, out from AK Press. Her first collection of poetry, Unearth the Flowers, as I mentioned, is published by Red Light Lit Press. So I'm happy to turn it over to Thea and Ma. I'm so happy to have you guys both here tonight. I've been excited about this for like literally 100 pandemic days, and those are the longest days. So I'm just gonna mute myself and let you guys take it from here. I guess I should unmute you first, huh?
Thanks so much, Evan, and thank you all for joining us tonight. I am so honored to be reading with Thea this evening and to be a part of the celebration for her powerful and gorgeous book, Unearth the Flowers. And please buy a copy if you don't have one already. And I'm going to begin with 2 new poems. Just for these. Still. I could stand perfectly still in the classroom corner, wearing a paper dunce cap while balancing on one leg. A memory, knocking a pitcher of water off the countertop just to watch it shatter. Tonight I hear the fireworks outside, crackling the stillness inside. A thought. The story of the girl who had tumbled into a cave and crawled her way out and up. Alive and quiet. I wear a red cloak to the 4th of July picnic. I stand still aside a pine tree. 3 drops of sap land on my cheek. Focus my eye on a cave swallow until the fireworks begin. And this is called Vaccine Grass. Foreheads thumping vain, I return to the Zoom room. Can you see me? See me? Can you hear me? Flames touch the mother's back. Firefighter catches tossed baby from 3rd floor. Can hear, can't hear. Can see, can't see. Miracle vaccine made in India. I am a hugging machine. And now I'd like to read some poems from Storage Unit for the Spirit House, which is coming out on Omnidon in October. Spirit House 5. As a child, I did not climb trees. Instead, I gathered leaves that flew to the ground. The elms were tall in the fall. The neighbor boys cruel. One left a dead kitten in a box on the doorstep. I made homes among the leaves, safety in gold, yellow, brown. invented a family who lived in a treehouse. Green twig, the mother, broken branch, the father, two ferns, the missing sisters. And this is called Storage Unit 202. And when I started the book, I was somewhat obsessed with storage units, and thankfully we're down to one storage unit. This is called Storage Unit 202. The rental faces another house. When she arrives, there are wild turkeys in the street. It begins to rain. The storage unit in El Cerrito holds pinned moths in cases, brass castanets, tin pants, a box of cork buttons. She swims laps in the thunderstorm. Storage Unit 202. 1, secondhand gloves. 2, a king drinking pear juice trapped in a glass jar. 3, wet hair and wet fur. 4, velvet spurs. 5, directions to the other world. And this is called Spirit House 4. Sibling follows sibling into thorn forest. Girl holds stick of incense, tip aglow. 37 gnats await atop Mount Popa. Volcanic relics, sister, brother, blue-throated barbettes. Lightning clue, nest lands on soft earth, entwined vines, distant blaze, candlewick floating in a bowl of oil. Thank you. And this is called Storage Unit for the Spirit House. The father at dining room table, shades drawn, wobbly throne. The daughters with their brown, shaky hands. A forest gnat haunts the master closet among the clothes moths, felt wolverines. Daughter number 1 hiding behind a juniper bush, bright longies, wooden handgun in metal case. Daughter number 2 sleeps with a long broom next to her bed, mint chocolates under pillow. 5 a.m., the father drops a cold, wet towel on her face. Storage unit filled with boxes of LPs, Joni, Dylan, Carly. Back cover of Jimi Hendrix Experience. On 2 hits of acid, this will blow your brains out. Dusty military jackets, punishment belt, piles of lock boxes, missing keys. Jars of Nescafe, VHS tapes of Burmese pop singers. Daughter number 3 listens to father's records in the den, altered music room. Sits on the piano bench near the door, the father in armchair, Joni singing A Case of You. Forest gnat flutters above in air smoky from Kent 100s. Thank you. And I'd like to wrap up with some newish ones. This is called The Chalice. A honey possum darts across the floor of a downtown bar among table legs and teachers and tourists. In another city, a developer sets a building on fire. The stand-up downs a shot of honey bourbon. Survivors crawl into the emergency wagon. In another city, the children play air guitar on trains for coins. The cabaret singer has bright teeth and a honeyed voice. 8 survivors wrapped in blankets. 2 tourists leave the bar. In another city, a woman sits alone in a kitchen. She considers revolution, sipping honey wine from a glass chalice. And this is called Fly Away. Fly away. I hear the songbirds more these days. Try to decipher sirens and calls. Tea makes a cocktail for us called Black Lily. I grow out my white roots, winter hair. Our calico wails at 3 a.m. My mother's losing her hearing. Figs fall from nearby trees. Wild bobcat roams yards of shuttered homes. I read somewhere that blue jays molt. Unkempt, they fly away. Thank you. Dome. That's not what he said. That's what I said. The ants were everywhere. In one conversation, a person speaks. The other pretends to listen. Takes place in an elevator with a velvet pillow. The ants take over City Hall. They circle the exits, fill sinks, crawl into politicians' ear canals. One by one, people stop talking and listening. The ants inch along the cool tiles into the dome hole. And snake. Pain coiled below the scalp. Spine curled in ball on calfskin sofa. Painkillers and THC bath salts from town. Snake ascends from curving spine. Grass gathers along forearms. Foam brace holds neck up straight. Snake in a patch near the crown. Curving road veers in the dark. Musculoskeletal x-rays flash in brain. Rips of pain, zips from hip. Ginger and turmeric roots grow under hair. Rhizome shoots appear on shoulder blades. And, okay, it's my second to last poem, and this is called Foragers. I feel kind of nervous. I don't know. Okay. The foragers salvage lemon rinds and fallen walnuts. Someone finds a leather saddle on a lawn in El Cerrito. Framed poster of Belmer's grotesque stalls. The elements unravel and reveal. Wild monkeys dash through downtown Bangkok. Children scroll through Chromebooks. The mansion dwellers on the hill cannot stop baking. Pound cake, beer bread, cinnamon buns. An antidote for the living. And this is my last poem, and it's called Stranger. Stranger. Stranger than a trunk of beetles, a box of fur buttons. My daughter is a stranger, and I am a stranger myself. We are strangers on a melting train. Sometimes she leaps through the kitchen window while I bake zucchini bread. Gretchen was a deer. Gretchen was a deer one year. My daughter is a hunter in the Black Forest. Stranger daughter, I hear you in my eyes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Woo! Yeah. Go Ma. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. You're such profound offerings, and just I love your work, and I'm really grateful that we get to be here right now. And just thank you everyone for being present and being here. Thanks Quiet Lightning. Thanks Red Light Lit. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm really grateful for electricity and for internet that allows us the opportunity for us still to convene under a pandemic. Not everyone has this privilege. So very, very grateful. And just, again, yeah, thank you, Ma. So wonderful. All right, so poems. Unearth the Flowers. I want to open up with some new shit, some new poems, and then just dive in to Unearth. And yeah, and then we'll go from there. So play. Play just one more kiss, she says, before dissolving into the flames. This is the dance of the raised fists, of fingers bent in toward the palm, of workers united and genders obliterated. This is the dance where I see God, where cries of children cease, where men are not forced into lethal pissing contests, where women do not hide under carpets. As a dance, watchdogs bark as they guard the house of poetry, of liberation, of a new world where no slave is a slave bound to their master. As a dance, it strikes a blow to concrete. Wind tightens the grasp, the harder the impact. This is the dance of the raised fists. And justice as a practice. What can I do to you that I have not already done to myself? Besides conning a man, selling utopias on the corner, bankrupt, years impede the passages of my ears from listening to the wind, the strumming in my heart, the raw tears streaming down dirt by dry blood on raw pavement. These balloons will pop like fireworks bursting from the hands of feds in the night. Reality is not a battle to fight. I will always lose. Cement hardened, shoes weigh heavy as I walk through an old city, through the shadows of my own repeated deaths of hurting another, through the valleys of being a repeated offender. I will not listen. Try again tomorrow. This is a poem. And then I'll go into Unearth. Oh, timing now. One moment, sorry. And now I have to find this poem. I really want to read it and share it with you, even though it's still new. This poem is a poem to understand what resides in the lungs of old family grief, what snatches the breath, what steals the life of those finding their way through heartache. This poem is a poem to understand bashing pots and pans to honor the first responders, our frontline medics. This poem is a poem to understand the terror that lives inside bodies, eats away the mind. Racism is a mental illness, the hatred no one is born with. Fear passed through the nipple. This poem is a poem to understand how marches in the streets stop traffic for hours, while a terror lives inside bedrooms of semen-soaked skin, a body ravaged with bruises, while a terror lives in a White House jacking off behind podiums. This poem is a poem to understand the language shared only when two pairs of eyes meet. Only when two pairs of eyes meet, nothing else can replicate the phenomenon. I think that's one of the first things that really deepened my appreciation. I don't take eye contact for granted. This is fine and dandy, but when you see someone in person, you get to look into their eye, and it's like, wow, I've always taken that for granted. Unearth the Flowers. Okay, so how I'm gonna read these poems, I'm just gonna have them flow, Without saying, well, maybe I'll say the name. Yeah, okay, I'll say flowers. Gazania. I alone extinguish that raptorial yearning to taste butter on tongue, rub honey between fingers. Tangerine lips pucker up for a kiss when planted in full sun, when dresses silhouette the galaxy of my body among sequined stars, rhinestone laughter. I open when planted in full sun, flow of Oshun. I exceed the price of elephant tusk, freshwater's bow, continents offer, ripe oranges and cinnamon, to boil the bones of who stole my mother's body. Azalea. Do not underestimate my power. I am woman, the divine feminine. My time is now. I barricade the drilled wells once punctured into my womb. I excavate each hook oil pipeline once pierced inside me. My skin, the cerise, my body, these petals, cannot be stretched any further by despotic hands. My water is sacred. My love is pure, despite contamination and abuse. I fought to live, now live to thrive. Do not underestimate my power. I am woman. Angel's trumpet. And I am here, dangling from screams buried in dirt. This family, this country, wears hypocrisy like a hagfish or lamprey found in Saks Avenue fur. The parasite appears rich from scraps of skin and hair, twirls and blood of children's fingers, stitching line by line. They will one day die a premature death. Artificial light and intelligence cannot conceal core cavities found in the body, found in dead tree trunks, found in unraveling roots, conduct policies, corporations, this nation's constitution. Law is nothing but a series of loopholes, a game of chess where your polo sweater. The canon condones torture, genocide, rape, the telling of we were never equal. I am the angel's trumpet. You touch me long enough, chew on my petals, swallow me whole, and I kill you. Step back, listen to the voices near street corners, backyards, front lawns, rows of houses, mom and pop shops, apartment complexes. Where there is land, there is blood. And I play you the dead, deprived, devalued, left to lie in pools of blood, and their blood seeps into my soil. From bodies killed, stolen, I transmute the shock to love. And I have to read Eucalyptus today. It's, as is said, Unearth the Flowers, an electrifying letter to family, country, and self. Eucalyptus is to my Aunt Gina, who died July 8th, 2016. True story. Eucalyptus to Aunt Gina. 1. You were among the first to ever hold me, witness my smiling gums. I was safe in your arms, unaware of how unsafe I was in the walls you held me in. You cradled me as if you were my mother, and for years I did not see the slit on your wrists. You disappeared often. An enigma, born in the winter, a newborn again, Pentecostal Christian, glamorous fashion, control disposition. Grandmother loved you the most. When news of your cancer welcomed me back from DC, I stood by the door shocked. Your expiration date ripped my duffel bag open, open, open. 2. The last familial holiday was Mother's Day. We saw you, dressed in the black, underlining your paleness, body swelling. No one spoke of cancer, of dying, of how to prepare for your absence in the upcoming years of our lives. No, We grieve in silence, confront truth, never, or only when alone. Family tradition. 3. 2 months later, I walk in on the last Monday of your life. Bundles of burgundy eucalyptus greeted me on the front porch. Each leaf reminded me of the mildly sweet aroma death sometimes has. Each leaf initiated the resolution of congestive ancestral brokenness. The closer I reached for the door, the closer I smelled death of a woman. When I saw you, I saw what was left of your body, swollen even more with swarming armies of cannibalistic cells, secretive tumors we had no choice but to surrender to. Spirit was counting down your last breath, a victory preparing for loss. What have you learned in this lifetime? I asked, relying on oxygen tubes you spoke. When I look into the abyss of my own vanity, I can no longer look at the struggles of others in condescending superiority. When I look into the abyss of my own vanity, I can no longer look at the struggles of others in condescending superiority. I heard Christ, wrote each word down, then left. By Friday afternoon, you were nowhere to be found. Heavy. Breathe. I'll try to end on a lighter note than that. Shit. Oh, that was good to read though. Can't see or feel anyone, but I can feel though, I think still. So breathe, Cardinia. A call to learn, love, listen, so that if you need to speak, speak. Rather than resist, refine your lungs. Purify the blood circulating the sun. Inhale the scent of my evergreen. Exhale my forgiveness of dead trees, the pollen found only in summer. Feel the continuous chant, the marching in your veins. The army lives within you. Thanks, everyone.
Hooray! Thea, fantastic. That was wonderful. So thank you, Thea. So I have some questions for Thea. Oh. Me?
Thank you. It's a habit to like quickly mute myself, but then this is really good. Sorry, here I am. Hi.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Thea. So I have some questions for Thea. And Thea, could you please tell us how your amazing book, how it came to be born? I wanted to know when you started working on these poems, and if you could talk a little bit about your process and how flowers became the structure for the book.
Yeah, wow. So the seeds were planted when I was still an undergrad at UC Berkeley. And I was taking poetry for the people, which really became like its own thing thanks to June Jordan. Right now it's currently led by Aya DeLeon, and that's who I took. I missed June by some years. I never met her. But definitely I think her legacy lives in the rooms, lives beyond the room, really, like on the page and in many, like in my work and many poets' works. And so I started writing poems during P4P, and I started off with like just prompts that I led of like self-affirmation or love as resistance. And in terms of incorporating flowers, the language and symbolism of flowers, it was in many ways an organic process where I've just naturally gravitated to color, to flowers. And then too, it was more so like divine inspiration, where then it became much more of a dialogue. And so like lilacs and hydrangeas, essentially, like were like the first two poems. And then from that, then it was a balance of researching, looking into flowers, but also too, like what artists do. Like everywhere I walk, like there's flowers. Like reading eucalyptus, like there was literally like the flowers would tell me which poem was next to write. So like when I went to my aunt's house before it burned down in Santa Rosa fires, there was literally like eucalyptus. So they were like, here I am, write me, remember this.
Oh.
So there was like definitely instances of that, or like seaside daisy. Like that's a flower you see like around like Ocean Beach or like parts of the sunset. And like, I definitely have like a spiritual connection with the ocean. And so seeing flowers, but not all of them. I mean, I haven't seen a gazania. Like there was also parts, or proteas, which actually I take that back. I have seen proteas, and they're gorgeous, heavy flowers. And like that flower precedes humanity. And so going, researching, but also like allowing myself to be led by the poem or by the flower gave way for like what would be like what would be written, and how I would be able to like interweave memory, experience, observations into like the history, the aesthetic, and the symbolism of the flower.
Well, I love the annuals and perennials, and that's fantastic. So you studied at UC Berkeley, and you got your BA in sociology. And who were some of your other influences when you were studying in the program? Poetry for the People.
I was gonna say, I was like, you want to
Poetry for the People.
Psychologist? I'm not gonna talk about like Durkheim shit. Sorry, like, and let's say theorists. But it is interesting because it's like my influences during that time was mostly just reading a series of anthologies of like any poems that were given. And most of it was like, I mean, during that time, eventually like Pat Parker became an influence, Joel Gomez. I mean, reading like The Breath of June, though, really like was a revolutionary time, like in terms of my writing. And then also I've always been intrigued by genres. So like the beats and confessionalism and lyricism. Those were like the main three that I really ran with. And so like from Plath and Sexton to Mary Baraka and Bob Kaufman, to Ntozake Shange in terms of the Black arts movement, like those were also like trickling in as well.
Yeah. All right. So congratulations. You're going to be starting the MFA program at NYU. That's so exciting. But you've lived in San Francisco all your life, and you were born here, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about leaving the Bay? I'm sure everyone's asking that, but how do you feel about leaving the Bay Area, especially during this time?
I can't give everyone a hug. I mean, it's like I could be in New York right now, but like, you know, it's virtual times. It's interesting. I think the whole quarantine, shelter in place has taught that like virtual reality is the way right now, right? Like we're all in our Brady Bunch like boxes. And so I guess, it's bittersweet because I just can't really physically like see people, you know, to like bye before I take off. But it's bittersweet though. Like, again, like I can still remain connected. I'm really grateful I got to have a lot of good times with the bison in Golden Gate Park, to be honest. And walking through Golden Gate Park has been really beautiful during this time. And the ocean, I love the Pacific. I'll need to get my ancestors, I think, like the Atlantic, I think for obvious reasons, there's like, But the East Coast, I'm really looking forward to it though. But I love the Pacific, and I will always like bring the Pacific Ocean, I think, with me. And like, California native, like SF, born and raised. Things are different right now. So it's, I think, a smoother transition, you know, and I can still stay connected. Yeah.
We'll miss you.
I'll miss you too. Well, I'm like, am I really leaving? Like, I mean, I know things like, I'm looking forward to the block parties. I don't think we'll ever be able to pack a room again. inside, it will be years. I don't know. I'm a little like jaded, but I am looking forward to like getting 50 to 100 people outside. So, because, you know, we don't have to deal with COVID lingering in the air inside a room.
So I read the interview with Denise Sullivan in the Examiner, and you mentioned your activist work, participating in protests coordinated by the Movement for Black Lives Matter, as well as your organizing work at City College of San Francisco. And I was wondering if you could talk about your role as both writer and activist.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they totally intersect. Artivism, in many ways, definitely identify myself as one, where art intersects with activism, and so much of what I do with poetry or what this book does, because I think there are many ways. I mean, how I use poetry today will change a year from now, right? But I think there will be some consistency with how, for me, poetry breaks silence. And as a writer, I get to play with language. Like, there is play that comes with it. Even if there is highly sensitive, trigger warning content, there is a sense of craft and, I don't know, inspiration and play with it. And so through language, I get to bring in concepts of what I feel like is justice, for instance. What coincided with working on Unearth the Flowers was that I was getting involved. I was working on a qualitative research study that I conducted that really looked at like survivorship visibility. And that's where I was like really kind of just exposed or was introduced to transformative justice. And what does justice look like without state intervention within the context of child sexual abuse, which is one of the most inhumane acts to ever be done to humans. And it's like to look and to have that be my starting point of what does it look like to remove state, like the state, was pretty radical. And that, like, interviewing these activists, scholars, survivors, oh, best believe I needed poetry. Like, I mean, it was giving me language and verbiage, like, for the first time of like, what does it mean to heal, to alchemize experience, and have it become advocacy, have it become a sense of uplift. I think that definitely is like a backbone for Unearth the Flowers. And so that's kind of where I see, yeah, like the intersection of art and activism and how they also like and interact with each other too. Don't get me wrong, like I love a good demonstration and march and we'll get arrested, you know, but and do all that, you know, to do for sure. But also like what's on the page is really important, and what's the role of the artist, especially during these times. You know, I think anytime really, right? Nothing's super new. I mean, we have just new faces and new names and new bodies kill, right? But it's same shit. So yeah, I've been really like reflecting on what is the critical, like what's the responsibility and critical role of the writer, of the artist during this time.
Are you interested in writing nonfiction as well?
Oh, no.
No, okay.
Now I'm like, let me just slam that down. Like, no, I just like, no, no. Poetry. If I say that now, you never know. But yeah, no. Prose poetry is where it's at for me, at least right now. I mean, in terms of like essays, and there are papers like I've been an author of, but yeah.
So I guess this is just a question I like to ask, but do you have problems with your writing getting stalled sometime? And if so, what do you do during those moments?
Ooh, that's interesting. So there's this new book. I mean, it's not that new, but like, I'll just like play around. Like, I'll just like kind of like read something like technical. And like, I love playing like word games and syllabics. So like create a form of like, I don't know, like each line be 6 syllables. Like, okay, cool, 6662. Or like the last 2 lines have like a certain number of syllables. kind of just create like just games, or like giving myself like 5 GRE words that I just don't use in my regular vocabulary, and like put them in a poem. That's been cool. Or like, yeah. And that's kind of helps to generate things. And then also too, like sometimes you just need to read. Sometimes you just need to listen, you know, kind of like when people say like prayer is talking, meditation is listening. Like there's a dialogue, like I need to live to also write. So sometimes that just means like making sure like I'm fully experiencing, like having an experience, lock it in, right? And then so I can put it out, incorporate that later.
Thank you, Thea. Those were my questions.
Thanks. Appreciate you asking me a question. Right on. Oh, I see a question from Yeva. Will you come back? TBD. I think so. Yeah. I mean, I have some family here. San Francisco is a complicated relationship, actually. Like, it's like one of those like relationships, like those exes, where it's like, I love you, I hate you, I don't want to talk to you ever again. And then I'm like texting you like late at night, like, yo, what are you doing right now? Like, that's kind of like San Francisco right now to me. I really, like, New York has been calling my name for some time. And so I don't know. And definitely, I think getting involved more or expanding, right? Because it's all about like not leaving. I think it's more so, I look at it more so as expansion. Like I get to like expand 3,000 miles. Yeah.
I have there are a couple more questions, if I may interject. The first one was from Ladon, I think. The question is for Thea. Thea, what's your advice for newbie poets or folks who want to pursue writing and poetry more seriously?
Practice, and discipline. There's this quick read book, The War of Art, where, you know, like they separate between like a profession, I don't even know, even like these words might even be like arguable, but like professional versus amateur, and like having a discipline, right? Where it's not just like, oh, am I moved to write, which is still like important in itself, but also like the poem needs to get done. Like there's revision and editing. So it's like showing up even necessarily when I don't want to, right? So yeah, I think practice, discipline, and showing up to priority. Like, I don't know, I think like first thing in the morning, I try to like kind of just put in a few lines. It's been helpful.
Beautiful. Thank you, Thea. And I should just say real quick, if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. There's another question up from Lauren, who's wondering, is there a question that you continue to revisit, Thea, that serves as a personal gut check for your relationship to poetry? Sorry, I see.
Sorry, my apologies. Did it again. That's a great question. In terms of like a gut check, you know, that's like something I kind of wrestle with at times of like, when is a poem ever truly done? And there is that sense of like, when I'm feeling like secure enough to walk away from it. Like, I know like the difference between like, oh, I need a break versus like, okay, like it's ready, like it's done. Like anymore, I would be causing harm to it. So I guess like meditation to cultivate that inner connection of knowingness is really helpful. And thank you, Michael, for catching the music influences. I think like pre-poets, I definitely like the rhythm is really important in music. I think various genres too, but like blues, jazz, but even like punk rock too, right? Like that's kind of really, I don't scream, that's always, but there has been some elements of screams. But yeah, I think just even how to like frame the words on the page, genres of music influence. Ma, you go first. What book are you working on?
Oh, I was going to say something about punk rock.
Oh, sorry.
So I know I look new wave right now, but actually I I'm an old punk rocker. And if anyone's interested, there's a documentary out right now called Desolation Center. And I'm one of the talking heads in it. And these are shows that happened in the 80s, in the early 80s, out in the desert, and a lot of punk and post-punk band, or early punk bands played in the desert, and I was a drummer for a band, and so Evan and I are collaborators. So music is a really big part of my process, creative process. So just want to say that. And
oh my God. Wait, memory. Remember that time I did interpretive dance on the spot and I did jazz basement level?
I forgot. That's right. That was a long time ago.
It was the Beat Museum Poetry Festival, and you were delivering home. And I was like, yes, I will do some interpretive dance for you.
I love interpretive dancers. So, what was the question? Next lit project, was that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thea, did you want to? I think you have a new project, right, Thea? That you're working on.
I'm working on the second book called Grim Grime.
Yeah.
Which I'm really stoked about. Yeah, it has definitely a lot of dystopic elements, but also really politically charged and addresses, well, more so interrogates neo-colonialism and in a sense of gentrification, like public health crises of like houselessness and addiction. And I just kind of go in, really. I'm looking forward. Yeah. So Grim Grime is the second book that I'm working to get it picked up right now, actually, like during this whole time. Yes.
I'm working on new poems, and I'm curating a project that lasts 9 months with the artist Megan Wilson, and we are working with poets and artists who have murals on Clarion Alley. Ooh. And it's a 9-month project, and the poets will do responses to specific murals on the alley, and the SF Poster Syndicate is going to create a series of posters using the poems by the poets, and we'll do poetry films, and so that's a big project. I just started it, and with Megan, so I'll be focusing on that, and yeah, just keep on writing.
Right, keep on keeping on. Mm-hmm.
Kimmy's wondering what books you guys are reading right now. What's right next to you? Also, maybe if that's a different answer. I know Maw's surrounded by books because I've been in that room many times.
Yeah.
Do you know Kim Hai-soon? Has anyone heard of her? Kim Hai-soon. So I love this book, Autobiography of Death, and her poems are just wonderfully weird. And I can see Shelley Wong as a fan. Yay! So I'm reading this, and let's see, what else do I have here? And I'm reading this, Running to Stand Still, which is also a wonderful poetry book. Local writer, you've probably heard of her. What about you, Thea?
Alexis Pauline Gumbs, M Archive. Dope, cold, Black feminist, scholar, healer, writer, like she does prose, poetry. This is like a sci-fi Afrofuturistic collection, M Archive, After the End of the World. And so that's one. And then kind of mentioned this guy's name. Shit, we're looking at like 2-inch thick. SOS, it's a classic. Been like kind of going through this and like just pulling lines, really. And then rereading some of Jericho Brown's work. Like his earlier, like his previous 2 collections pre the tradition. So, oh, sorry, I should probably, he wrote before the, Please and the New Testament. And so, been also like chewing on some of those.
He teaches at NYU or?
No, I wish. Dude, Terrence Hayes that's kind of where my eye is at. But Jericho is in the South. I want to say.
He's at Emory.
Huh?
At Emory University in Atlanta.
Oh, he's at Emory. Oh, Emory. Okay.
Yeah. Any more questions for Thea and Maw, you guys?
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much. So grateful. Yay. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone, and be well.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And purchase some books. I recommend Unearth the Flowers by Thea Matthews, and Storage Unit for the Spirit House by Maw Shein Win. You can get them both at Booksmith.com, and we'll ship them right to you. Hope to be able to share some space with you guys in like real space, like in face to face at some point in the nearest future. But until then, it's nice to see you here, and I hope that we could do that again soon. Take care, everybody, and be well. Yeah. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Be safe.
Thank you. Congratulations, Thea and Jennifer.
Congrats, Thea.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Evan. Right on. Bye, y'all.